My name is Insane Raven. I'm back with another episode of Letters from the Field. And no, I don't know, guys. Sorry. This week was weird because a lot of this week was spent thinking about and worrying about next week, because next week's gonna be a big week. Next week I have finals. Next week is just going to be a massive week. Finals. God of War, whatever is coming out. Like, it's gonna be a big week, so I've been prepping for that. I'm hoping to try to get out a best of by Tuesday. So it's just inherently going to be there's bigger events. And I'm not excited about it. I've been working a lot on just projects and going to the gym and trying to find this balance between going to the gym and just being the same student, being the same gamer, being the same YouTuber as I'm trying to be. So a lot of this week was just focused on readjusting and finding balance, which it's interesting because a lot of people will go and say that, especially a lot of people my age, they'll be like, oh, well, you just don't have time to play video games as an adult. And I'm that way with TV, because video games are my primary source of entertainment. And despite the fact that I pay for Netflix, Hulu, and now Verve, I actually have very little time to watch TV because I'm just working on a project. I'm working on YouTube. I'm working on a YouTube thing. I'm working on just something that's always keeping me right here. And this week was just, how do I balance it all out? Which, I know I've said basically the same thing for the last 2 minutes, but like, that's been the overarching thing. I went to the gym every day except for Thursday and Friday. So I went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and today, Sunday, I'll be going back. So there was that. I hung out with Cincinnati Kid. He was back in town, and whenever he's back in town, it's always just like, yeah, tonight the boys ride, which is interesting. How it works. That man's, what is that, a gun? Or is that a microphone? What is that coming out of that dude's face? I'm very concerned for his safety. So there was that. That was kind of going on. Overwatch dropped its Retribution thing, which, that's the other thing. Next week is going to be like my last week before finals, and I have to be studying all next week. But I'm also going to run out of Platinum Roads next week, so I have to play a shit ton of Overwatch, on top of the fact that I have to be studying for finals, on top of the fact that I have to be working on Tales of the Hunt videos, on top of the fact that I have to be working on this best of series, best of video. There's just so much happening. There's so much constantly happening all the time. So, that'll be fun. Where are we going? Valkyrie? Cool. So yeah, I'm working on all that, and so a lot of this week I've spent disorientated just because I don't know how to balance everything out. I'm still trying to figure that out as I kind of like stumble my way through it this week. But then on Thursday, I work with students. I work with elementary school kids all the time. As one of my jobs, not all the time. Like, it's like a freelance thing. And one of these students was leaning back on a chair where he wasn't supposed to be. So already he's doing something he's not supposed to be doing where he's not supposed to be doing it. So already, and the fact that I'm mentioning it means that this story can only end so many ways. So this kid is doing all this stuff, and he is leaning back in the chair and he falls, which typically when you fall out of a chair isn't a big deal. You hurt your bum, you maybe hit your head, but it's not a good time. It's not a reason for anyone to freak out. Well, he fell and landed on a lock for a door that's on the ground because the door has like this spike and it's locked off the ground. And he falls and hits this thing. Well, he falls and hits this thing and starts just profusely bleeding from the back of his head. Now, it's my job to make sure that all the kids are safe and all the kids are just in a good place and that they're safe and that they feel comfortable, but also that they're being watched and they're also doing things that are productive and fun, and I've never been on this map before and all these other things. And this kid is now bleeding from the back of his head, and my immediate thought is, God, I hope this kid's okay, because he's one of my favorite kids. I'm not even gonna lie. He is such a great little dude, and he's awesome. And I'm like, God, I hope that he's okay. But the other thing I was thinking is, if any of the other kids see this, this is gonna become from what's already a bad situation to a full-blown disaster. So I'm like, alright, I look over, I see that we're kind of like supposed to be heading out. I'm like, guys, we ran past our time. Everyone get in line, head over, like line up. Which was good. And some of them didn't listen because they're children. Why would they listen? So I yelled it the second time. And as I'm doing this, I pick up the kid that's now bleeding from his head. I throw up his hoodie because at this point, not only am I trying to help him, but I'm also trying, because I know that we have to walk past a bunch of first and second graders and a bunch of other people and things. So if this kid is just bleeding from his head, it's gonna be a much bigger deal, and people are gonna be freaking out and scared. And that's what I'm trying to avoid right now. I'm trying to avoid a program-wide panic attack, basically. All while thinking, I hope this kid's okay, and God, I'm going to lose my job. Which aren't good thoughts to have. I know we've had kids break their arms before at the program because they were doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing. But we've never had a kid profusely bleeding from the back of his head. Like, this may be an unpopular opinion, but when it's the front of his head, that's okay, you know? You got hit in the face trying to do a thing, didn't like stop it in time, that's okay. The fact that it's from the back of its head is such a much more vulnerable thing, and that creates so many more problems. So I get him inside and we're good, and I'm like, okay, I think we can handle the situation. And instead of like dealing with the kid who's still bleeding from the back of his head, the assistant manager, who we're not the best of friends, decided this would be a really good time to scold me and reprimand me about the procedures of what that should be happening at the location where we were at. And part of this is happening because, first off, she's blaming me for this, which is fair. But at the same time, I was working with other students trying to make sure that they were good. And I'm fairly certain that a 5th grader can sit in the chair without falling out of it 9 times out of 10. So I thought we were good. And I'm over here kind of giving her the eye, like, look, there's a time and place for this to be busting on me right now. Kid with a bleeding head, not the most pressing thing is to reprimand me. Just heads up, you know. And because it turned out what had happened is that while I'm trying to deal with this, like all this like drama that's happening with this kid's head, a student who loves being nosy and loves to basically be a pain in my ass for no other reason than just she enjoys being difficult, had run on ahead and said that a kid was bleeding from the back of his head. Now, don't get me wrong. It's good. It was good that they were notified because I didn't want to say anything over the radio because the radio system is where all the kids can hear everything. And so I had made a decision that I wasn't going to say anything over the radio. I was just going to walk in and kind of deal with this. It was going to be much more of a, oh, he was a loaded grenade approach, and I recognized that. But at the same time, things were going to be dealt with in a way that would keep the hysteria down. That was really what I was trying to do, is just keep hysteria down. And shit went on head. So over the radio, you're just hearing, what happened to the kid? What happened to the kid? Mr. Kid, what happened to the kid? You're just hearing, what happened to the kid? What happened to the kid? Raven, what happened to the kid? And it's like, okay, look. I'm trying to stop hysteria, and you are actively throwing it into everyone's face. I'm like, okay. So, at the end of the day, I walked up to my manager. I was like, hey, do you want me to like come in tomorrow? And she looked at me and she goes, why wouldn't I? And I was like, well, today happens. And she's like, you're scheduled, right? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, then just come in. And I was really anxious about coming in Friday. I was like, I don't know, like, how everyone's going to be. I don't know how everyone's going to react. And this is kind of terrifying, if I'm honest. Like, all of this is absolutely terrifying. So as I'm, like, waiting for everyone to come in, he comes in. And he walked up to me, I'm like, hey, how's your head? And he's like, I had to get staples in my head, and I'm gonna take it easy for a couple of days, if that's okay with you. And he didn't say it like in this rude, like, sassy way. He was like, genuinely, if it's okay with you, I'd like to, stay inside and not do things for a little bit. And I'm like, that's fine. For all day today, you can do whatever you want, kid. And, it came to the end of the day, and I hadn't really hung out with him because he was taking it easy, and I had to go work with all the other students. And he walks up to me and he's like, hey, when do you leave? And I was like, that's fair. You did crack your skull with my, under my watch, so it makes sense that you would want me out of here. And he goes, because you're my best friend here, and I don't want you to go. And it was this really touching moment of like, oh, I don't know how to respond to that. There's not a response in my textbook about what to say when the kid you've almost personally maimed says you're my best friend. There's no textbook response for that. And he kind of just said it, and I was like, oh, this is really sweet. I don't know how to feel about it. But that was pretty much my Thursday and Friday. I'd work, and Thursday I'd come back from work, and I was like, all right, I'm probably gonna get fired within the next couple of days. I want to get incoherently intoxicated, which I was proud of myself. I did not do, which is good. And instead I sat down with the other residents in my house, not my house, but their house, and we watched The Greatest Showman. And I realized something about The Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman is probably the greatest movie depicting someone's life. And here's why. Because P.T. Barnum was a terrible human being who should not get an ounce of anyone's time or respect. Because he did some terrible things. He killed like 6 whales. He put a fishtail on a monkey and called it a mermaid. He had a slave who he then autopsied live and in front of people. He he did a bunch of terrible things, and yet in this movie, he's almost hailed as this champion of the disenfranchised. And I'm like, this movie is exactly how P.T. Barnum would want to be shown. It's all this flamboyant, extravagant lie, and it is everything P.T. Barnum was about. Just give him a show. Fuck the truth. Give him a show. And I think that's kind of fascinating. I think that if you look at the film from that perspective, it is absolutely fascinating. But yeah, coming from the point of like factual shit and just actual like, oh, I can learn something from this film. You can't. Like none of it's true. None of it is fucking true. Which is funny. I find it's kind of funny that people were like, something that critics were upset about and people were upset about was that because so much of the movie is fabricated, it felt like the audience got conned. And I'm like, you're literally watching this man con everyone. Why would this film do anything differently? Like, that is a big, like, I mean, yeah, it's valid criticism, but at the same time, like, this is the movie you sign up for. Oh, okay. I felt like I switched guns fast enough. I'm not doing well this round at all. But, we watched Greatest Showman, which I love the music for The Greatest Showman. Like, if nothing else, the music is amazing. And I love it. I love the music of it. Absolutely. I also love the honest trailer for The Greatest Showman that came out. It's because, all in all, like, the music isn't the best. You know, most of the songs are cliches of, hey, I'm gonna stand up for myself because I have value. The love song, to end all love songs, the theme song, and they're all like stereotypical musical songs, but they're just fun to listen to. They're fun to enjoy and whatever. But there's that. Also, this dude is like on a roll of just murdering me. But that was all that, and I don't know, man. I have a lot of work I have to do today. I'll be honest. I have to record all of Danganronpa. I have to go to work. I just have stuff I have to do. It's gonna be a busy day. And I still have to work on the Best Of series because I'm not done with it. And that has to be out by Tuesday. Hopefully, it'll be out by Tuesday. It's probably gonna be more Thursday, if I'm honest. I'm aiming for more of a Thursday release, but you know. That's been my week. Let me know how your week was in the comment section down below. And I will see you guys in my next video. See you guys around. Bye.